Alright, I need everybody's attention for this one. 'Cause the pattern that's about to unfold over the United States is something I've only seen in historical records. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. We are heading into a winter setup that we have not experienced in over 50 years. It all kicks off as we move through November. Past Thanksgiving, and straight into December and Christmas. And the trigger? A major sudden stratospheric warming event, not one of those little minor shifts that happen twice a year. No, I'm talking about a full-scale wind reversal that rips apart the upper-leveled circulation and unleashes chaos into the mid-latitudes. The last time this happened in November was 1968, not 20 years ago. Not 56 years. And the reason this matters? When the polar vortex becomes unstable, when it stops behaving like a clean spinning top and starts breaking into little swirling fragments, those pieces slam southward one by one. And every time one drops, it drags cold air, deep jet stream troughs, and storm systems with it. Think snowstorms. Think blizzards. Think nor'easters forming where warm air and brutal Arctic air collide. We're already starting to see the fingerprints of this way up in the stratosphere. These long icy fingers of sub-freezing air starting to punch downward. And once they reach the tropopause and begin interacting with the jet stream, that's when the conveyor belt of storms begins. Next week is when the machine turns on, by the way. If you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now, let's move on. Storm after storm begins to fire from the Pacific, crash into the West Coast, reload in the Rockies, and race across the United States. And each one drags down more cold air. That's why the week of Thanksgiving becomes the transition rain and severe weather first, then snow, then a full-on winter pattern that just doesn't stop. I looked back at 1968, and the results were insane. Record snow across Wisconsin. Heavy snow all the way through the Ohio Valley. A literal wall of snow in southwestern Oklahoma. And the new data coming in tonight suggests we may be looking at something even more intense. Once we move past mid-December, the model runs start showing snowstorms stacking up, not just little ones. Big ones. There are early hints of a 1-2-foot blanket of snow across the northern tier of the country by Christmas. Higher elevations in the west? 2 to 3 feet easily. And every one of these storms will have a warm side as well, meaning severe weather, flooding, damaging winds. Even tornadoes in the southern United States. Let me walk you through this as if we're watching it happen in real time. First, atmospheric river slams California. Flooding begins. Then the jet stream buckles and sends the first trough into the Great Lakes and the Northeast, cold, windy, and raw. Then here comes the parade. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, next weekend, boom boom. Boom, storm after storm after storm. The big one next week? That's when the severe weather threat lights up across the South. Large hail. Damaging winds, maybe even November. Tornadoes while snow starts piling up on the cold side. Then the models reset and show another system forming over California immediately after, and that one tracks across the U.S. right behind the first one. By the time we get into the week after Thanksgiving, the snow map starts exploding. That is when the true winter pattern locks in. And here's the part people aren't paying attention to. Right now, it's too warm for snow across most of the central and eastern U.S. But that warmth is exactly what fuels the severe weather outbreaks before the cold really arrives. Flooding in the south, freezing rain in New England, days of dangerous rainfall for California. Then the temperature gradient flips, and every storm after that has the energy to become a snow producer. From Mississippi to the Great Lakes, flood risk. From Nevada to California, repeated storm impacts. And for the snow lovers watching me right now, your season starts right after Thanksgiving. I hope your shovels aren't buried in the garage, so let me recap this in plain language. Warmth and severe weather first, then cold air crashes in. Then the snowstorms begin, and once they start, they don't stop. We could genuinely be looking at multiple blizzard setups, nor'easter threats, and remarkable snow totals for December and possibly deep into January, all because our polar vortex is breaking apart in a way you almost never see in November. Late November is when the switch flips. A deep trough dives into the center of the country and drags cold air down from Canada like someone just opened a freezer door. Temperatures drop 20 to 30 degrees in some places in just 24 hours. Minneapolis and Chicago could easily see light accumulating snow before Thanksgiving. The Great Lakes fire up immediately. Buffalo, Erie, and Cleveland are going to be in non-stop lake effect mode as long as the winds line up. With lake temperatures running warm, this air is going to wring out snow like a sponge. I would not be surprised if by December 10th, we already see totals like 25 inches in Buffalo, 20 inches in Cleveland, 30 inches in Erie. Then December kicks in. And this is where I really start seeing similarities to 2013. There's a blocking setup forming over the North Atlantic. And when that happens, the cold air in Canada has nowhere else to go but south. The storm track sets up across Texas, the lower plains, and right into the Ohio Valley. That means the Midwest and interior Northeast will repeatedly be under the gun. Even places that rarely see snow early, like Dallas, could get one of those 1 or 2 inch winter shutdowns. Meanwhile, cities like Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, and Pittsburgh are lined up to run above normal snowfall for December by the end of December. I think we'll be looking at numbers like Minneapolis, 18 to 24 inches, Chicago, 14 to 20 inches, Detroit, 16 to 22 inches, Cleveland, 22-26 inches, Buffalo, 30, Boston, 10 to 15 inches, New York City, 6 to 10 inches, Philadelphia, 3 to 6 inches compared to 2013. This is a notch lower, but still well above the long term. Averages then, January arrives, and this is where I think we feel the full force of this winter. Multiple Arctic outbreaks. Not just one cold blast, I'm talking round after round of cold fronts pushing through the plains, Midwest and Northeast. Every time the pattern relaxes, another wave of cold recharges and drops down. You get storms riding right along the freezing line. Ice storms in the Ohio Valley. Snowstorms in the Midwest and Great Lakes, and at least one nor'easter for the big cities along the East Coast. I don't think New York, Philly, Baltimore, and DC are getting multiple big ones, but they will get one. And it could easily be a 6 to 12 inch storm with higher totals north and west of the main cities by the end of January. I think we see totals like Chicago, 40 to 45 inches. Minneapolis, 55 to 65 inches. Cleveland, 55 inches. Buffalo, 80 inches. Pittsburgh, 25 to 35 inches. Then February comes. A lot of winters mellow out in February. This one doesn't. I think we lock in another round of cold, especially from the Rockies through the Midwest and into the Northeast. Storms continue. And for some areas, this might actually become the snowiest month of the season. Let me break down the projected seasonal totals. Upper Midwest and Northern Plains, Minneapolis, 70 to 80 inches. Fargo, 55 to 65 inches. Milwaukee, 45 to 55 inches. Great Lakes region. Chicago, 55 to 65 inches. Detroit, 50 to 60 inches. Cleveland, 75 to 90 inches. Buffalo, 100 plus inches. Interior Northeast. Pittsburgh, 4050 inches. Albany, 60 to 70 inches. Syracuse, 110 to 130 inches. Coastal Northeast. Boston, 40 to 50 inches. New York City, 15 to 25 inches. Philadelphia, 10 to 18 inches. Baltimore, D.C., 5 to 12 inches. Rockies. Denver, 50 to 60 inches. Salt Lake City, 70 plus inches. Pacific Northwest. Seattle, 4 to 8 inches. Portland, 3 to 6 inches. Cascades, 300 to 400 inchy southern snow zones. Nashville, for 8 inches. Memphis, 1 to 3 inches. Dallas, maybe 1 or 2 inches. What makes this winter different from 2013 is the rhythm. That winter had long, punishing stretches of non-stop freezing cold. This one has slightly more breaks between shots of Arctic air, but every one of those shots means more storms and more snow. Instead of 4 or 5 monster storms like we saw in 2013, I think this winter is more like 10 to 15 medium-sized storms that add up fast. This won't be one of those winters where you shovel once and forget about it. This will be the kind where your driveway stays white all season, and every time it starts to melt, another system moves in, all right? If you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, Leave your region or city in the comments. I'll answer them individually as I have time. Commenting is completely free. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.